During these last few weeks, have you kind of felt like everybody wants a piece of you? Like everybody? I have, and I wanted to talk today a little bit about boundaries. So I'm Dr. Syra, and this is Therapist Thursdays, and I wanted to take a few minutes today to talk to you about boundaries. Some of us are really, really generous, big-hearted, kind-hearted people. And we want to serve, and we want to support, and we want to be there. And unfortunately, some people take advantage of that. That's what I've learned over the last few weeks, is that my good intentions aren't always received by others with good intentions. And so I wanted to talk today about boundaries. One of the things that's really important to remember is in boundaries is that you get to decide where you put your energy. People can ask you to do things, ask you to engage in particular conversations. They can ask for your opinion on things, but you don't always have to give it. I've found certain types of conversations with certain people are just super draining right now. And so I've decided selfishly, to actually protect my energy and protect my time. Because I had an experience a couple of weeks ago where I had a conversation and it put me out like for days. My energy was shattered. And, I wasted time that I could have been spending with my kids or with my working on my business or just staring at the trees. But instead I was kind of churning and churning and churning. And so what I've learned is sometimes I just will now say no. I'm not going to chat about this. And one of the things, so for me, I don't like to let people get away with stuff. So when people make a comment that's like small-minded or not just simply not true, they just believe something that's simply not true, I always want to like jump in and correct and say, well, have you ever thought about it from this perspective? And what I've learned is that I don't need to do that. I don't. Somebody can do that for them, and I'll do that for them when I'm feeling good and feeling like rich and full. But when I'm tired, when I feel like there's 100 people asking me for 100 things, I'm not going to do that. So that's one area of boundaries, is like making a decision about who you want to talk to and what you want to talk about. So that's one. Another thing about boundaries is being able to ask for what you need. For those of us who are empathic, for those of us who are in the helping professions, it can be really easy to sense other people's needs and then adjust ourselves accordingly. But who does that for you, right? Who notices when you need something? And chances are high that very few people do notice. And that's probably because you don't ask, right? You don't actually say that you need something until you're totally burnt out and you're exhausted and you're in crisis, and then you'll ask for help. And what I found with my clients is that people get to this point, right, where they're in crisis and they finally ask for help. And then if the person they're talking to doesn't respond right away or in the way that they want, then there's all of this kind of blowout often that happens, or a total like collapse that happens because it took so long to ask. And I know that feeling. I know that feeling of like, finally I asked for help and then you didn't even give me what I needed. Finally, after all this time, I asked for help. So that would be the second thing, is making sure that you are asking for help before you're in crisis. Really important with boundaries. And these are, again, because one of my teachers talks about the container, right? So if our kind of mental, physical, spiritual container is this big and our problems are this big, then you feel stretched. You feel at the end, you feel overwhelmed. But if your problems are this big, but now your container is this big, now you can handle it. It doesn't seem like such a big deal. So our job, one of the things that boundaries do is give us a chance to stretch our container, to take the time that you need to fill your own cup. I have a webinar on self-care and burnout, which is online. I'll put the link to that. I don't even know if it's up yet, but when it comes up, I'll put the link to that below. And one of the things I talk about there is filling your cup. And I like the metaphor of like a cup and a saucer. Right? A cup and a saucer. And so the idea is that you fill the cup but you don't give from the cup. You give from the overflow. You give from the saucer. And if you have nothing in the saucer, then you have nothing to give. And what I found, especially for parents, especially for people who are studying or like in some sort of intense, stressful time, it's really easy to give from the cup and then to feel resentful because you have nothing left. And so that's another thing about boundaries, is making sure that you've filled your own tank first. And that means you're going to have to say no to some things, because if you say yes to everything, if you say yes to everyone else, that means you're saying no to yourself. Okay? If you say yes to everyone else, that means you're saying no to yourself. And we know how that goes, right? Not good. And so that's what I would say, is make sure that you're saying yes to you and really considering what is it that you need. Sometimes you'll just need to stare at the wall. And that's actually a break for your brain. It's actually a good thing to just not be stimulated, to not be engaged, to just float for a while every day. It's really, really refreshing for your brain. Now, I'm not talking about, say, if you have depression and you're just kind of staring at a wall because of that. That's a different category, right? But when you're a busy person and you keep going, it's important to have some time and not watching TV, and not checking your Facebook, and not checking your mail, and none of that. Not going for a hike or going for a massage, or like not doing anything. Just being. And people feel sometimes uncomfortable to ask for that time. And so one of the things that I do is I say, oh, actually, that's not going to work for my schedule. They don't need to know that I'm staring at the wall for that half hour, but I need to build it in, because if I don't protect my calendar, no one else is going to do that for me, right? So that would be the last thing, is to make sure that you're protecting your own time and energy in order to be the best version of you, so that you can help, so that you can be there, so that you can do your thing in the world. So those are my thoughts for today around boundaries. You get to say no. You don't have to engage in every conversation. You don't have to be teaching everybody about life and the world all the time. You can choose when you want to do that. And sometimes you might just not want to, and that's okay. So those are my thoughts today. Take care, and I'll see you next Thursday. Bye.